good lesson learned to all the people out there as we get ready to prep for this episode with Jamie. Last episode, I forgot to click the record button, and that's all on me. 100% accountability is my one of my favorite words. What a bonehead. So, anyways, but got the radio show done, which is the key thing. But it's like the video has become a new thing, and it's just like Anyways, today Jamie White's back with us, and we're gonna have some fun. Let's talk law. Jamie, I'm looking at the website. I would definitely want to go into. I want to read a testimonial here after we do the "This Is Your Life" in the first segment, and then we'll go into stuff that we talked about yesterday, and
Sure.
because I also went into the practice, and we won't have any problem. Everybody that's watching this video on the pre-show stuff, practice areas. What I want to do with Jamie is we want to feature our sponsors and our guests like Jamie, who gives us his time, which is very valuable. We want to feature so you guys know what the expertise is. And I'm going through the website as I'm looking at it right now, and practice areas are so huge. We got lots and lots to talk about. So, and Jamie's just become, this is his second show with us, which we're really grateful to have him. Jamie, welcome back, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
It's nice to see that you're recovered from the
Yeah,
shingle.
yeah. I feel much better. Thanks, man.
Oh, I appreciate that. Let me get this going so we can get you out of here. Move this. Got my tea in the right spot. If I don't, I will be in a bad shape. That over there. We went to the office. We actually, Sandy and I went to visit her physician yesterday, and so we stopped by your office in Okemos yesterday.
Oh, cool.
Sweet
So,
spot,
yeah,
dude.
yeah. Sorry I missed you, man.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, it was just because I was trying to get a hold of Christine and you, and I don't want to bother you, but now that we kind of got this thing nailed down and we're getting more used to what we're doing, I won't need to bother you with topics. Well, I'm just going to go off the website and we'll just riff. And if it's going to be a hunter non-hunter, I think we'll talk a little hunter non-hunter probably every episode because
Sure.
if that's your thing, you love talking about that stuff, and I love talking about hunter non-hunter, and it's just a fun gig to do. So your
Sure
level
is.
your level looks great. Your video looks great. Got that clicked there. Let's go. Here we go. You ready?
Ready.
Yeah, here we go. Last week, Dr. Deborah Heiser was here. Unfortunately, I forgot to click the record button on my video, but the audio is awesome because we talked about gaslighting. And I went right to the well with her on this number one search term in 2023 was gaslighting. And
Yeah.
and my guest today, Jamie, I guess we'll talk about that with Jamie here in a second because he probably have a lot of knowledge on this stuff. But you want to listen to that episode, you guys, because gaslighting is very over and misused now because it became mainstream and people just use it for everything. And it's like, I'm going to go fill up my car with gas lighting or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just crazy. But the real definition of what it is and why you need to be aware of this behavior, because this is an insidious thing, this gaslighting stuff. Check it out. Dr. Deborah Heiser last week, her 41st visit with us. Okay. Back to talking some law with my brother from another mother, Jamie White. Jamie White is a new sponsor of the show. Been doing some really great things. He's the founder of White Law PLLC, and they specialize in lots of different things. As I said pre-show in the recording, we're going to just riff on different things to feature what White Law does and some stories. And then towards the end of this episode, and probably toward the end of every episode with Jamie, we'll be talking some hunter non-hunter because he's a huge outdoors person. We're going to talk a little bit about why decompressing is very important for everyone, especially professionals who are working so darn hard nowadays. But Jamie White specializes in criminal defense and civil litigation. And if you missed the first episode, and I had so much good feedback on that first episode, you guys, it was just crazy. Jamie's story about why he got into law was so compelling. I had no idea that he was going to talk about some stuff with his family back in the 70s. You need to check out that episode because that puts the real person with the real thing. And that's what we like to do here with our guests, especially our sponsors. He's a very experienced trial attorney, having tried numerous homicide, serious felony cases to completion in various Michigan courts. He's a would you say, Jamie, that you're really you cut your teeth on the civil litigation and the practice areas? Let me bring this up here, but the personal injury, was that kind of the beginning for you guys? If I remember correctly, that was the whole thing.
Yeah, so well, the beginning was Tom, anything that walked in the door,
Having
anybody
meeting.
that,
I remember you said you're
yeah,
having meeting at McDonald's.
yeah, yes, absolutely. My first client meeting was in my wife's bedroom. We at that time we were dating and we had separate residences. But people will ask me, what kind of law do you practice? And now I can tell them. But I used to say, what kind do you need? you know, and we would try to accommodate everything. We were general practice.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate. I had worked at the prosecutor's office all through law school. My dad was a prison warden, my brother was a state cop. So criminal justice just, and I was a criminal justice major. So I really made my way doing criminal law. We I, I, people may disagree, but we were probably the top criminal law practice in our area for a significant period of time. As you indicated, we tried numerous homicide cases. I've never lost one, too. I would throw that out there. And,
Say that about the Spartans.
oh my God, that's a whole nother episode,
That's a whole
man.
nother episode.
Yeah. So, criminal law was really kind of paved the way for me to grow and do some other things. As you indicated, we do a lot of personal injury work. I have a partnership with Morgan and Morgan, who is probably the biggest personal injury firm in the country, if not the world. And I'm one of their exclusive partners. And, we have hundreds of cases with them. And then, in particular, over the last 6 or 7 years, I fell into representing victims of sexual assault.
And we're going to talk about that in depth here throughout the show, everybody. Jamie,
Yeah,
let me rudely interrupt you here and just say,
yeah,
okay, stop there with because we're going to do the law talk stuff here shortly, everybody. But you know
sure.
how we do the show, and I kind of started things off on a little off foot here, but it's so interesting talking to Jamie about this. Let's do the This Is Your Life, because you've had, since I've seen you last, you've had some interesting things happening in the. How's the family? How are you? How are your children? Please talk about them a little bit, and then we'll get into some law talk.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I have 4 children. I have a daughter in Chicago, and I have 3 teenage boys. My oldest boy, we're kind of putting our arms around him right now. He's a senior, and he had been a heck of an athlete, his entire life. I coached him until middle school, and then I turned it over to the guys that are smarter than me. And he was pegged to be, the guy. And he broke his hand multiple times, and then he broke his other hand taking fastballs from a pitching machine. So he's missing out on this year. And, East Lansing is number 2 in the state. And, they're looking at regionals next week, and they're projected to go to Breslin for the championship. So, we're trying to take care of him, and he's doing well. He's a 4-point student. We never had hoop dreams. Academics was always our thing. My youngest son, however, is really a good player. And he's actually trying out for the Swish program next weekend, which is they travel to Dallas, Texas, Lexington. He
Is this
handles
basketball or is this baseball?
basketball, and he's a heck of a football player too. He goes up and grabs everything. He's a 6'1", and he's in 8th grade.
Oh my.
So yeah, he's a player. And then my middle son, he decided not. He gave up on athletics a couple years ago, but again, 4-point student. We really are so blessed. And my wife gets all the credit. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Oh,
Yeah, she gets all the credit, and everybody's doing really well. So we're really blessed in that way, and we're having a lot of fun with it.
Would you, Jamie? Because the kids always like to hear their names on radio and podcasting. So start with the daughter that's in Chicago, and then just rifle right through there, and then we can talk about that wife of yours who keeps things rolling, just like Sandy does for me, Christine. She's
Yeah.
just. I mean, without those two, without Sandy and Christine, you and I aren't even talking, bro.
Oh, I don't even know if I'd be here.
I guarantee you, I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. So my daughter Haley, she's in Chicago. My oldest son Derek, and then who's named after my brother. My middle son Alex, who's named after my mother-in-law, who's since passed. She was, and then my youngest son Cameron.
And Cameron's 6'1" in the 8th grade.
Yeah, man, and he can play.
And he can play. And you guys got some talent out at East Lansing. I might have to even go out to Breslin to see that, because that was one of my events back in the day when I was working at the university for the telecom department. That was my event every year for almost 25 years. The high school.
Yeah,
I loved working both the boys and the girls. And if you ever get a chance, everybody, digress a little bit, me, Tom, I digress all the time. But if you ever get a chance to go to the Breslin Center for the high school tournaments, for the semis and the finals, it's so much fun, and there's so much passion, because so many, and Jamie, you know this because you've been over there so many times, but to watch the student athletes come in with their eyes so wide open, and the
right.
parents coming in with their eyes wide open. I remember when my daughter Ashley was in high school in 2005, she was at Holt and they went to the finals, and it was so exciting. It's just, and I graduated with Irvin Johnson. So, I mean, we had the state championship. Those things are so hard to do. And boy, you guys had a really great program out there. Now
Yeah.
you talk about Derek breaking his hand on a pitching machine, but he's a basketball player. So he plays both.
Well, he played basketball. He played football too. He played all three, and he was a high jumper. He would leave baseball practice and go high jump, and they'd let him play even though he wasn't practicing because he could jump pretty. He could get up there. But
Man,
yeah, he played basketball. That was his favorite for a long time. He stopped growing. He's about 6 foot, and then he broke his hand, and that took him. He was sophomore when that happened, and it just was one of those places where it kept breaking Tom over and
yep.
over and over. And so that kind of pulled him out of the rotation. And right now East Lansing is loaded. I mean, they've got Andre Hudson's kid, they got Kelvin Torbert's kid, they got JL. I mean, these guys, they call it lob ball. I mean, they're running plays, but a lot of it is just
I'm going to probably
toss and dunk.
I'll have to get with you. Let me take this through, Jamie, because we're going to come up to break here. Jamie White's back with
Sure.
us. Law Talk. Jamie's one of our sponsors. He's here quarterly. We like to talk about all different facets of the law industry. And again, as I said a little earlier in this segment, if you missed that first episode with Jamie where he talked about his life story, you want to go back and get that one because it's so, so good. All right. Listen to the Tom Matt Show. Let's talk law with my buddy, Jamie White. You're listening to the Tom Matt Show. Cake. Fucking easy. If you ever need any help with training, you personally, I train at MSU all the time. I don't do a lot of one-on-ones anymore, but if you ever wanted to do something like that, I'm out there in the mornings. I don't know where you're doing your training. If you ever wanted to, I like to just say, if you want to get something to change it up, because I work with students all the time, but I'd be
Yeah.
happy to, do you have your, do you have your ID, your alumni ID?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I went
So
to
you
law
could come
school.
in, so you can come into the building. You have to have that ID to come into the building, but then you just buy a day pass. And if you ever wanted to come in the morning or set something up with me, let me know. I mean,
Cool.
we could have some fun and just go dick around and get to know each other better. We've been talking about having lunch at Brody too, and we got to get that happening so we can
Yeah.
flesh out some stuff, but got to get you through illnesses. So
Yeah.
just stay healthy. My nose is fucking killing me today. Excuse me. All right, here we go. We'll roll through this quick. You'll be out of here in no time.
No, no worries.
Okay. The second segment of the Tom Matt Show is sponsored by Craig Stiles. Just had our taxes done last night with Nikolai Luke, Simplified Tax. Nikolai, what's happening? Love that guy so much. Known him for like 25 years. And we're talking about just, we hit our numbers with Craig because we took all of our retirement zone savings from my career at MSU and Sandy's career in healthcare, gave it all to Craig. Craig managed this for us. We got things to do. And believe me, you guys, it's been working out. Craig Stiles, Ameriprise Financial, been with us for a long time, been on the show. He's a financial fitness guru. If you ever want to get to know him a little bit, go listen to some of those episodes on the website. There's like 25 of them there. And same thing with all of our sponsors. We want you to go and just kind of peruse around Ameriprise Financial. They're our advisor. We want them to become yours with the right financial advisor. Life can be-ism, everybody. Be brilliant. Call Craig 1-800-528-1355. Local numbers 517-483-4893. Craig.stiles@ampf.com. Offices are located 2400 Lake Lansing Road. Suite B is in Brilliant, Lansing, Michigan 48912. Stations that have carried us, will carry us, have carried us in the past, all over with the Michigan Talk Network and some of our independents. WGHN 92.1 Grand Haven, WGIM 1240 in Lansing, the flagship of the Michigan Talk Network, where we're on that station with all of those other shows, with thanks to Steve and Ivy Gruber, who we love so much. They're so awesome. WJRW 1340 AM in Grand Rapids carried us for a long time. WKLQ 1490 Muskegon, Whitehall. We're all over the place. WYPV FM 94.5 way up in Mackinac City. We have stations carrying us up in the UP, mom and pop stations on the Michigan Talk Network. And I thank you for listening if you're picking us up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And of course, we have our PBS affiliate, which I'm very, very proud to say, at Michigan State. And thank you to Brad, the station manager, general manager over at WKR at Michigan State University. AM 870 News Talk, AM 870, carrying us at 5 o'clock on Sunday afternoons. Wonderful. 102.3 FM on the simulcast. And you can always get the stream on any of these stations that carry us all over the place. They play us all the time. We're a weekend show. Thank you again to Craig Stiles for creating Desideri Analytics, which that's how he has his proprietary algorithm, making the changes, doing the things, and helping you figure out what you need to do with your money so you can do whatever you need to do with your life. That's the whole thing with that. And we have several books, 4 books on Amazon, that thing called Amazon. Please check those out. Generation Us is the latest, and Maximize Your Quality of Life was our first. And in between, we wrote a couple other small books. Please check them out. They're all there. All right, Jamie White's with us today. Let's talk law. Love talking law with Jamie. Smart dude. Super cool. And just love having some conversations with him. Just went through the family stuff, talked about the kids. You've got quite the roster. Parents that are out there who have multiple, you have 4 children, and they're all athletes. So let me tell you, I know being a papa now with 2 grandchildren who are very active, up and coming athletes. Jamie, when you have athletes, you guys are probably, it's no wonder you're hard to get a hold of sometimes, because
Yeah.
you're hauling kids everywhere, going to games, going to practices, and your kids are a little older now. But if you had advice for parents out there that are trying to raise, because your kids are good students, really good students, and they're really good athletes, what tip, if you had one tip to give to parents for between you and Christine, what would you say that would be the one tip?
Don't take it too seriously and don't put pressure on the kids. Doing the AAU thing for years, some of the parents, it was troubling, between screaming at the refs, screaming at their kids. We all know 1% of these kids are going to play D1 ball. And, to see some of the parents ruin it for the children was, it was hard to watch. We always encouraged our kids to just do their best and have fun. If I could offer one other tip, they've got they've got portable seat backs now you can put in the bleachers. That was like sliced wonder bread to us, because sometimes we spend 8 hours in a gym in one day. But really just, support the kids, let them have fun. They're meeting the right kind of kids around the right kind of parents. Memories are going to last their entire life. When I first started coaching as a young person, Mike Devlin, I don't know if you know Mike, he's out in Meridian Township. He runs their athletic department, and he would make all the volunteer coaches go through a program. And, one of the things he talked about is, most of us were ex-athletes, and he'd say, remember back to who your coaches were. And, who are the ones you liked and who are the ones you didn't like. And, at the end of the day, I don't think people understand the impression they have on young people, whether it's a coach, a parent, and so on and so on. So, my advice is just to have fun with it and support them when you can. And when they lose, it's not, don't be critical. I mean, there's a lot of parent coaches out there, and they mean well, but at the end of the day, they're just kids. And, it's just keeping them out of trouble, Tom. I think I spent hundreds of nights in a hotel, in Indiana and Ohio and Kentucky. And for us, it was, of course, it was challenging, but it was great, because my wife was running the restaurant company, I was running the law firm. And then over the weekend, we'd all cram in a hotel room, and it had some interesting experiences, but it was great family time. So, take advantage of it. It goes fast, and, just don't put too much pressure on the kids.
And the whole thing, and I'll close this, and that was very, very good advice. Jamie White's with us, everybody. Let's talk law. But the good advice that you give, the discipline that kids learn playing athletics or being
Mhm.
in any club. Now, I'm not just saying athletics. I'm going to say if you're involved in any extracurricular activities that take practice and they take discipline, could be piano, could be singing, could be dancing, could be cheer. We're not saying it's just you got to be the big two, big three sports. Anything that keeps kids active is going to help them academically. And I'm very much a huge proponent for education, lifelong education. And our kids, we got to give them the foundation and then let them flourish. So thank you for
Absolutely.
all that. And you've done some really wonderful work. Jamie, set this up now because we're going to come to break here in a couple minutes here.
Mhm.
And we want to talk in depth about this clergy abuse case that you have going and set that up. Would you please and kind of tell us what's happening? You talked a little bit about it in the previous episode, but we're going to do a deep dive on this today, and then we'll talk some Hunter on Hunter later in the show. Could you set that up for me, please?
Yeah, so I'm not sure how much you want me to go in the weeds, but I'll just say that 30 states around the country have made the courts available for victims of sex abuse that otherwise would not have had access. We've been actively involved with the legislature to make Michigan the 31st state. I was actually on the phone yesterday with Senator Pohanski, who's incredible. We intend to introduce legislation relatively soon, and it's going to provide access to the courts for some people that suffered horrific abuse at the hands of people they trusted.
Yeah, the thing that Jamie and I talked about yesterday. Thank you, Jamie. We'll set this up, and I'll carry this through to break. When we talked yesterday, kind of setting up our pre-production show call, the whole thing was, and there's so many details. I don't want to misspeak here, but part of it that I found very kind of disconcerting, and not kind of, it was disconcerting, was that when people reach a certain age, that the statute of limitations, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie, we'll talk about this when we come back. You'll lay the whole thing out. But it's like you only have a very short window. And I think that's what part of the 31st state, what you're talking about with being able to go back and do these things. Because I know from having my own experience in mental health, a lot of these things are suppressed forever, and it takes a long, long time to figure out why I feel this way. And I've been down that road. And so we'll leave it there because we're going to come up on break. Let me reset this and we're going to come back. That's why I want you guys to stick around. Stick around, come back for this with Jamie. Let's talk law with Jamie White. You're listening to the Tom Nash Show. Beautiful.
Cool.
I got to do this read for this Jamie guy. Okay.
Yep.
Isn't really a read. It's just that's how I told you, I need the relationship with our sponsors and our friends. And it's like, because I just want to riff and just, blow you guys up. Sorry about that. I
No worries.
did them this morning and I did the spin class this morning and it was a little bit.
Oh, there you go.
It's just been a good change up for me, and you just got to keep shuffling it around, man. For this point, at this point in my life, it's like, hey, man, I'm just grateful to be able to, and the students they still like me coming around. So it's all good. It's fun.
There you go.
Really a blast. Here we go. Third segment of the Tom Matt Show is sponsored by my guest today, Jamie White and Christine White. We didn't really talk much about Christine. She's the backbone of what we do, just like with Sandy's the backbone of what I do. But she is absolutely the go-to person for us, and we've talked about that. White Law is where justice meets compassion. And we're going to talk extensively about all kinds of different law issues with Jamie. I'm so grateful to have him with us. I thank Dave DeMarco for putting us together and Jamie sponsoring the Mad Dog Minutes, which are continuing to grow and flourish and do really well. People really like those things. If you missed any of those, just go to our website, tommattshow.com. You can find all that stuff there, the clips, the YouTube channels, the TikTok, all that stuff. White Law is your advocate in times of need. We've talked about this. We're going to continue to talk about this. We're going to talk about the victim of clergy abuse here coming back in just a second here, everybody. So stick around on this. Jamie and the whole team, they are there to listen. Sandy and I actually went to the office yesterday because we were out in Okemos and I saw White Law and I was like, hey, let's go into Jamie's office. Maybe Christine and Jamie's there. And they weren't, but the office is sweet. And it's so professional. It's so nice. You guys want to check this out. White Law is your advocate for times of need. They will support and fight for what you deserve. Jamie will research cases, and if it has some merit, he'll take care of it. If it doesn't, he'll let you know. But the thing is, you need to get some information from these professionals. That's why we have these guests on our show who know what they're talking about. You can contact White Law for a free consultation. Did I say free? I said free. Free consultation. Visit whitelawpllc.com. Sweet website. I'm looking at it right now. It's just awesome. I'm going to read a testimony here in just a second off of the website. It's really, really good. whitelawpllc.com. Call 517-777-9785. We've got them splashed all over. You can find Jamie, all of our sponsors at the bottom of our homepage, TomMattShow.com. Go to the bottom of that, click right through. I want to read a testimonial here real quick. Everyone I worked with at White Law was professional, responsive, and courteous during all of my interactions with them as a client. From Jamie, who first assessed my case, to Dan, who represented me competently and thoroughly. Also, Blake and Natalie. See the team, everybody? Blake and Natalie on the support team were excellent at providing assistance whenever I needed it. Everyone answered my emails and calls promptly. They treated me with respect, and that's a huge word, respect, and they were pleasant to work with. Isn't that something? On top of that, Dan got me the outcome I wanted. Voila, victory. We want wins. I would not hesitate to use their services again. If I find myself in need, I wholeheartedly recommend them to others. That's S. Selleck, coming right off of the website. So please check that out, whitelawpllc.com. All right, Jamie, let's talk about, you set this up a little bit, 31st state, and you were mentioning in our call yesterday too with, doing some work with Curtis Hertel, who I've met. I know Curtis, he's a good dude, and all of the people that you're connected with at the state legislature. But let's set it up. I mean, that sexual abuse thing, as I said in the close of the previous segment, you may have suppressed this, everybody, because of the mental health issues that go on. That's what happens in the mind, is you will suppress bad memories, but it may still affect your behavior and you don't know why. And so, Jamie, pick it up from there, would you please? Because that's where people, they may go into therapy and come to find out, oh my gosh, they remember these things that were so far deep suppressed. I'm sure you've seen this. You deal with this, clergy. And it's a tough topic, man. It's a tough topic, but we got to talk about this.
Yeah, it is really a tough topic. So, the movement really started in 2003 in California as far as opening the door. What I mean by opening the doors, you've indicated you have so much time to file civil litigation, and it differs state by state. And then, of course, we had the Spotlight movie, which really shone a light, for lack of better words, on the national problem. It's not only clergy. There are other institutional abuses, coaches. The Boy Scouts have gone through hell. But the unique thing about clergy, Tom, that and I was raised Catholic. I don't hate the Catholic Church. I can tell you that the vast majority of the advocates that I work with around the country have some level of background with the Catholic Church, and even today, members of the church want this to be rectified because they want to put it behind them. But what was unique for decades and decades and decades and decades is you have 12-year-old boys, and they're told that the priest, and for all practical purposes, is God, right? And is connected to God. And so that alone sets the table for manipulation. And what we've seen is that priests go out and they prey on the most vulnerable kids. They don't pray. I mean, nobody ever messed with me. I had a mom, I had a dad, I would have said no, but they prey on the most vulnerable people who maybe are a little bit lost, a little bit lonely, and they use that pulpit to bring them into a very difficult situation. So what we're doing, Michigan really was the bottom of the barrel as far as statute of limitations was concerned for a very long time. At one point in time, you had to, if you were a child, you had to report the abuse by the time you were 19 years old. And, these are young men who some of them haven't even had a girlfriend yet, so the idea of coming forward was just not realistic. And so We have had some success. We passed some legislation in 2018. Unfortunately, because of the legislative makeup, it was narrowly focused and it only addressed victims of doctors, in effect, the Nassar victims. And that's what led to ultimately getting those women compensated and non-compensation as far as changing the way that university practices. Not only Michigan State, but universities all over the country woke up and said, we've got to do something different here. So we are in the process of passing a bill that's going to open what's called a revival window. And that will allow people to who are time barred, their claim is too old under the current law, but it will open a window and allow them a period of time to go back and bring their claims. And there's a lot of naysayers, but at the end of the day, it's not as if, and this is a big piece that I think people need to understand. We're not asking that everybody just gets a check. We're just asking for access to the courts. You still need to have your evidence. You still need to present your proofs. It's not as if, okay, we've got this revival window and therefore, you're going to get $100 or $100,000 or whatever it is. So we're working very closely. I talked to the governor a couple of weeks ago, and I do believe that she's a survivor herself, and she is on board. Unfortunately, and I don't want to turn this into a Republican Democrat thing, because there are a lot of Republicans that do support this, but in the world we live in, there's a partisan divide. And up until very recently, we had what you call the trifecta. The Democrats ran the House, they ran the Senate, and they had the governor's mansion. And that has changed. A couple of representatives successfully ran for mayor. But we're very optimistic that we're going to be able to get the support we need to get these gentlemen access to the courts. And, what happens after that happens. And, again, just to, we get a lot of blowback from the Catholic Church. They have a very effective lobbyist who's a good friend of mine, has been for a long time, but this is his job. And what we've seen in other states, Tom, is it's good for the church. The attendance in the church is dropped dramatically over the course of the last 30 years. And I contribute a lot of that to the systemic problem that the church has had as it relates to sexual abuse. What we've seen in states where there's been enforcement and change is attendance has risen and people are more comfortable and they're not shameful of talking about the church.
When we come back from break, thank you, Jamie, for that. It's Jamie White's talking there, everybody. We're talking Let's Talk Law with his appearance on the radio program. When we come back from break, I want to go right into the naysayers, as Jamie was talking about. And what I just jotted down listening to Jamie's story is confidence and trust in your church, and why that you want to allow this to occur, this litigation, because that will bring the confidence and trust back into your institution. I know this for a fact because I'm very, very connected at Michigan State University, and it hurts my heart when we go through tough times. Jamie White's here. You're listening to the Tom Mann Show. Yeah, it's a bitch, man. It's
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go right there as soon as we come out of break after I get to Brock's read and go right in confidence and trust. And my question when you were talking was, why the fuck people were being naysayers? I think I know why, but I want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I'm gonna give you that question. So,
yeah,
be ready, because I think you know where I'm going with that. The
yeah,
revival window. Okay, so that's
yep.
Easy stuff for you. Here we go. Love doing radio so much. Learn so much. So great. Fourth segment of this radio program. And again, I'm so grateful to our sponsors and to our guests for coming on the show and sharing this great knowledge, just like Brock Fletcher does all the time when he comes in talking about real estate. Well, we have our big three. We got our financial fitness. We got our law talk with Jamie. We got our reality of real estate with Brock. Brock Fletcher and the selling team of Keller Williams. Again, full disclosure, we've used Keller Williams to sell Big House Holt, to buy Little House Lansing. He's helped us a lot. He's been a huge supporter of ours for years. Call Brock today. Brock Fletcher. Brock. 517-853-6408 is the office number. The big number, the super secret, not so super secret number anymore, is the cell phone number to Brock's pocket, 517-303-3262, 517-303-3262. Go online, kwsellingteam.com, kwsellingteam.com. Sell your home without hassles like we did. Buy your home without hassles like we did, because Brock is a straight shooter. He invests thousands of dollars in marketing, way in front of ever getting your business, because when he does get your business or your phone call, or you just reach out to him for a tip or some advice, which he'll take your call, there's no charge, just like Jamie does, just like Craig does. All of these people, these really good professionals, I guarantee you, they will take your call. They know what's going on. They don't need to, they want to, of course, be businessmen, but they want to support you, and they want to build that trust. We're going to talk about confidence and trust in just a second here, talking about what Jamie's covering today on our Let's Talk Law episodes. But Brock is just the best. Mike Deadman, I always like to say hi to Mikey because he was our buyer's agent when we bought Little House Lansing, where we are recording this episode. Again, like I said, many agents spend when you list with them on the marketing side of things. Brock does not. Brock is an investor who will invest in marketing so that you get the best bang for your buck. And go check out all of our episodes of the Reality of Real Estate on our website, and away you will go. There's lots of questions there, just like we're going to have with Jamie as we continue to build this portfolio of episodes that we deal with. Let's Talk Law with Jamie. Jamie, we're talking today about the clergy abuse. Pretty much specifically, we're going to talk in the fifth segment about a little decompression for you and some hunter non-hunter things. It'll change the topic a little bit. But getting back to what you were just talking about, I wrote down the revival window. And I was really curious as to what you said, that there are naysayers out there. And I'm just like, why in the heck would there be? I think I know, but why would there be naysayers to people who wouldn't want this to be resolved? Because this type of abuse, that when it's suppressed in people's memories and it affects their behavior, it affects their life, it affects everything that they do, and they don't even realize why. It's like, who could argue with something like that? I wonder about the naysayers. What's the scoop?
Well, the easy answer is money. You know, that and it works both ways. I can tell you that in the Nasser case, the numbers were confidential, but when we were mediating that case, a certain board member approached me and, you know, suggested what I would call pennies on the dollar, and just kind of shooed me away. And he was a good friend. And it wasn't until we passed legislation that their nose went wide open. So, you know, the money is definitely a factor. They don't want to spend it. At the same time, what we know is every single case like this, nothing changes until you hit them in the pocketbook. You can write letters, you can have commercials, you can have picket signs, but nothing happens until you get hit in the pocketbook. And we saw that at Michigan State. You know, the other thing, and this is unfortunate, is there is a serious contingent of Catholics who accept what happened, but feel that the church is under attack. And that is just a matter of educating people, because what we know through civil litigation, and this is a very important piece, we have tools that don't exist in criminal law. You know, we have the power of discovery, and I can tell you that for every one predator that we find through the course of discovery and investigation, dozens more come out, are discovered. So it's not only a tool to help the existing survivors, but we find that it's a tool to expose predators who otherwise would never be found. And what's unfortunate, Tom, and you know, this, when we talk with our national advocates about this, Michigan if you don't think these guys seek the places where they can get away with it, I've got some waterfront land in Iraq to sell you. They seek the places, it's no accident that Larry Nasser volunteered for the high school gymnastics team, right? He didn't like gymnastics. He wasn't a gymnast. He found that environment. And I'm not saying all priests are like this. I think the Catholic Church has come a long way to resolve this problem. But many of these priests historically sought this out. And I think when people understand that that is a problem that needed and still needs to be resolved, they'll fall back from their fears of the church. What we call the sky is falling. That's the defense that they talk about, and that's the way we like to describe it. The sky is going to fall if the church or the Boy Scouts and so on have to be accountable for what's occurred.
How stressful is it when you go through discovery? Jamie White's with us, everybody. We're Let's Talk Law. We're talking about um, sexual abuse, clergy abuse, whatever. Any type of abuse with children is just awful. But how hard is it from your perspective as the attorney? You have to listen to all of this, and for the victim to go through. That's got to be very, very rough.
It is, Tom. It's difficult. There are some days that, it catches up with you. And, you know, I always tell my staff, whether it's a traffic ticket or a victim of sexual abuse, put yourself in their shoes. That's the only way that you can reciprocate what they're saying. If you're just sitting there checking boxes and not listening and not really trying to empathize with where they're coming from, it's very difficult to communicate with them. But at the same time, that, I tell my wife all the time, sometimes I come home and it's like, I feel like energy is just pulled from me, because you're listening to these stories. And, when I was doing criminal law, I would do the same thing, no matter how egregious their behavior was, or no matter how minor it was. I would always try to put myself in these shoes. I have a colleague who he's a good friend and he's a good guy, but I'll never forget. He asked me, I don't know, this 10 years ago or so, and he said, "How do you get all that money out of these criminals?" I said, "First of all, I don't call them criminals." I mean, people make mistakes and so on and so on. But if you're looking through a lens that these people, those people, and put yourself on some sort of pedestal, it's, first of all, it's not effective, but it is quite taxing to step into the shoes of the victims and the accused and the people that need your help.
Well, having the experience, and this is going to be a leading question because we're going to come up on break and we can finish the thread when we come back with Jamie. But the having the experience, being emotionally connected to this topic, and knowing how to deal with this puts you in the forefront of being people that can litigate this correctly. It's just like all of our other professionals that are experienced with this, like financial fitness with Craig, or real estate with Brock. But from your perspective, you and your team, you're used to this. Unfortunately, it's an unfortunate thing, but at least you know how to deal with it. And so
Mhm.
it's not like it's your first time. And that's another reason we have to implore people to think about this. Because again, if you're going to gain that confidence and trust back in the Catholic Church, you need to weed out all of these bad actors. So take 30 seconds to comment on that, and then we'll come back. We'll finish that, and then we'll talk more in the fifth segment about decompressing. Can you talk about that, please? Emotionally connect.
Yeah, and that's a really important point. What we're seeing now, the Me Too movement, and some other, this area has been exposed. And in all fairness, I think to some degree maybe a little bit too far. The canceling of people over maybe comments and that sort of thing, I don't support. But what we've seen is, because there's been publicity and there's been lucrative settlements, we have people, lawyers, coming into the fray who do not have trauma informed experience and are simply there to try to make a buck. And not only do they screw up our litigation 9 times out of 10, but they often leave victims very confused and disoriented.
We're going to take a break right now, everybody. Listen to the Tom Matt Show. My guest today, Jamie White. Let's Talk Law. We're going to finish this thread because I knew that was a big point. And then after that, we're going to talk about how Jamie can get his sense of purpose back himself with his hunter, non-hunter. Listening to the Tom Mann Show. You and I are going to have a lot of fun conversations.
Yeah, man, this is good.
It's just really great stuff. I mean, it's just so, again, long form radio. It's way different than like doing a 3-minute spot on, nothing against Tim Stout or any of those over there, but it's just way different. And so, and I really enjoy this kind of stuff. And I'm being sincere here, talking to the camera too, that you got to know, you got to have experience with this stuff. And as you said, trauma informed litigation. Well, I'm going to go right there. Okay. I'm going to throw it to you, Jamie, for plug. So plug the website, plug the phone numbers, plug anything you want. Take as much time as you need. And
Sure.
Okay, here we go. Welcome back to the Tom Mann Show, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Love so much having these conversations with my very, very smart friends. I'm very grateful to have smart friends like Jamie White. Let's Talk Law, because it's so layered. And Jamie was just talking about, we're going to get his contact info here in just a second, but when we get done getting Jamie's contact info, the trauma-informed litigation and the people that don't, they see the dollars, and so they jump into the business, but they don't really have the experience like Jamie's got, his team's got, dealing with all of these issues. You got to be really careful here. That's why you want to have a consultation with Jamie. And if you want to do that, Jamie, how would you suggest people get with you?
So Google, I'll pop up Jamie White Attorney. Our website is whitelawpllc.com. And if somebody wants to give us a call on the telephone, there's multiple ways. We have a call center, but the number that's used most frequently is 517-316-1195. But any number that shows up on the website will land you to the right place.
Very, very well done website, whitelawpllc.com. Check it out. It's on our website. You can go there. You can click through on all this. It's a super high-end website. I mean, we've got chats. We've got all kinds of good things happening over there. It's very, very well done, very professionally done. So compliments to you, your staff on that, Jamie, for doing that.
Thank you.
I want to finish the thread. You're welcome. I want to finish the thread of what we were just talking about with people jumping in to the law business without having the experience that you have, and why this trauma-informed litigation, where they see the dollar signs and they hang a shingle out, I guess you'd say, and want to get your business because they want to get a piece of the pie. That's not what we're trying to do here, especially with this radio program. We want you to have confidence and trust in Jamie, but we also want you to have confidence and trust in your institution, just like at Michigan State, just like with the Catholic Church, all of it. We got to weed out these bad actors. The only way you weed out these bad actors, as Jamie said earlier, is have them pay. That's it. It's all about the money. You got to have people pay, because you can, as Jamie said earlier, you can run ads, you can do everything. You can have picket signs, you can have protests, whatever. Doesn't matter. Not going to matter. Finish that thread, would you please, Jamie, about that, and just why that, with your vast experience with this, why it's just safe, because this is hard anyways. It's so dang hard anyways.
Yeah. So, sometimes, there are certain circumstances where the institutions don't know. It's rare. I mean, the Boy Scouts literally have what we call the skeleton files of, scoutmasters who have been reported. The Catholic Church, I hate to make this comparison, but they keep the record keeping of how they move priests around was similar to what we saw in Germany in the 1930s and 1940s as far as record keeping. It's all there. But there are situations where I think people don't believe it. And, Dr. Nasser was one of those examples. There were several parents who came out in his defense until the evidence was overwhelming. And I certainly do not believe that any of the doctors at Michigan State University knew what he was up to. Again, now, I mean, my kids with all their broken bones were in that office. It seems like every other week now, but they've changed their procedures. There's a nurse in the room, and they want a parent there, and nothing's perfect, but what we're seeing is people are being more conscious of it. I can tell you when I was coaching, Tom, and my wife said, but this job has jaded me. But we'd get like some guy would walk in, I'm coaching sixth or seventh graders, and I'm like, who's your kid? I don't have a kid here. Who's your grandkid? I don't have, where are you here? I'm trying to get experience. Get the hell out of here, man. I don't, you go get out of here, and maybe that's over the top, but it's important that we keep our radar up, because these guys pick their areas. They don't get there and decide to be a predator. If it's a Boy Scout leader is a predator, he chose the Boy Scouts. Larry Nassar chose to be around young women who were gymnasts, and I could go on and on. So it's just important that we keep our radar up as a community. Again, I hate the cancel culture where you make a dirty joke and all of a sudden you lose your job. I think that's way too far. But there is a happy medium to make sure that kids are safe.
Well, again, I want to close it with this, everybody. Having a wife who is refired from healthcare, and I was in higher ed, as everyone knows, and I'm Catholic, born Catholic myself. Jamie's exactly right. Doctors are held in this godlike status. Priests are held in this godlike status, and it's like their word is word. It's like gospel, and so those times have got to change. And there are plenty of good people out there. Many, many, many good people out there. Many good coaches. I've coached. I still coach, and it's just like Jamie said. You have to have awareness. You have to have your radar up, and you have to be on top of your game with your kids and keep an eye on things. All right, let's take a break here and kind of shift gears. All of this heaviness has to lead to some kind of decompression for you. And we want to do these towards the end of the show episodes. I think we'll have some fun with this, with your ability to decompress in your way, the hunter non hunter thing. Let's talk about what you've been doing, how important it is to you to do these things. I mean, obviously, you have a lot of pressure on you with these cases. And so I totally empathize with why you want to do this kind of thing. Please help inform other people. Maybe there's some guy, maybe men out there, men and women who it's just work, 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 and they don't have that. You had that list of 4 things, but you can only do 3. Could you share that, please?
Yeah, so I mean, you can work, you can have friends, you can have business, or you can go out and play. And it's difficult to do all 4. On some level, something has to give. But in a limited scope for me, I love the outdoors. I've always loved the outdoors, and despite the fact I represent hundreds of Boy Scouts, I was a Boy Scout and I loved it. It was one of the best experiences of my life. I caught my first fish when I was 4 years old, a pike in the Eaton County in the Grand River, and they put it in the newspaper and the whole deal, and I was addicted at that point in time. So I love to hunt. I only shoot things I eat. That's a big thing to me. And I love to fish. And when I do these trips, Tom, I leave the cell phone away, right? I might be sitting in a tree where I could be making phone calls, but I don't. I go down to Costa Rica about every 3 months by myself. People think I'm crazy, but I go down there by myself, and I have a woman down there that sets me up with a boat, and I fish and, spend time just kind of, thinking through things. I'm going to New Zealand next month with one of my hunting buddies, and we're going to hunt stag, and we're taking our wives. They're going to be hunting spas and jewelry and God knows what. But and he's a forensic scientist and works all the time. And so him and I spend a lot of time together in the outdoors, hiking, fishing, hunting. And it's a great release, and I love it. It's great exercise, and it does. I always come back, more balanced than I left.
How do you keep yourself in physical conditioning? Because we talked a little bit about you and I maybe getting together for a session or 2 here and there at the university, do some training with you. But how do you do it on your own now and stay in shape? Because you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, so I ran, I was an athlete, most of my young life, even post high school, intramural every single day, blah, blah, blah. And then in my 30s, I ran marathons. I ran 3 marathons. I ran probably 20 half marathons and more 5Ks than I can count. Um, I had a couple injuries and wasn't able to continue running, but started, for before COVID, I was in the MAC, the Michigan Athletic Club, every morning at 5 a.m. with a professional trainer, lifting weights, getting the blood pumping before I go to work. Admittedly, COVID kind of slowed things down a little bit, and I need to get back on the horse. But it's important. My doctor told me a long time ago, the difference between being a couch potato and staying active is the difference between being able to climb up the stairs when you're older, being able to play golf, and I want to do those things. So I do my best to stay active. My wife is active. My kids are very active. So, I'm very blessed in that way.
We'll talk more about this in upcoming episodes, everybody. Thank you, Jamie, for sharing that little tip for everybody. What would your takeaway be for this episode, Jamie, that you'd like to close with? We got about a minute and a half to go here. What would you like to close with?
I just I hope the community will pay a little more attention to the important things that are going on. I'm not going to say what my political affiliation is. I don't think it's important. Most people that know me know what it is. But I think we're in a world where people are getting their news from Facebook. And I think that is a very dangerous dark tunnel that we're headed down. When I was a young man, you would watch the nightly news and read the New York Times, maybe your local newspaper, and that is what led you to, or the Wall Street Journal, that's what led you to make a decision about what kind of leadership we want. And I think we've gone down a very dark rabbit hole where information is being parsed out, oftentimes completely inaccurate, and people who otherwise would not have read the newspaper are sucking it up, and it's dangerous.
And that's a really good closing point, and that's why we like to do this radio program, because you're going to get straight stories with us from a man like Jamie White and his whole staff at White Law. Let's talk law with Jamie. Jamie, that was an excellent interview. Thank you so much. If our show fits your business or group's mission, we want to be of service to you, as do our sponsors. Please look them up. That's why they're on this show, so that you can continue to learn and we can continue to get better. Always remember, before you can share love with others, you must love yourself first. I like to close the show with that every time. Thanks to Jamie White, Sandy, Craig, Brock Fletcher. We'll talk to everybody next weekend. Have a great week. Remember, the Tom Mack Show is a production of Boomers Rock Media. Lastly, I'd like to say thank you to Mitch Anderson, our producer, puts us on the radio and gets it done. Thank you so much. We are out. Another good one, man. I'm going to start
Cool.
saying this. You're going to hear me say this every time now, because it happens with my guests I get to know. I'll say, that's your best show ever. And then the next one will be, that's your best show ever.
Yeah.
Topics are so fucking good. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
people hear this shit. So thank you, my man.
Thanks, brother.
I hope you
Thanks,
feel
man.
better. And
Yeah, I'm coming around.
when you get back from New Zealand, let's get our lunch together and we can start talking about, our really deep dive in this thing. I want to get to know you better. And so we'll have some fun.
That sounds good. I'll be
Okay.
back late April.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, take care, Tom. Bye-bye.
Bye. Wonderful. What a great guy. I mean, just crazy. Jamie White, Christine White, the whole staff at White Law, can't say enough about them. They're just amazing people, and I'm so grateful to Dave DeMarco for putting us together. And Spartans find each other, and we are Spartans through and through. And I want to thank everybody for joining us and listening. And it's a blessing to do this radio program. I've said that many times, and I'll continue to say it. Thank you so much for following us, watching us, comment on us, send us email. Remember, TomMattShow.com is where you can find all of the past episodes, all of our social media, all of that good stuff. Please go there. Peace out. Love y'all.